Judge Engeron's verdict is delayed, which is good for Trump. And Letitia James is caught overplaying a weak hand, setting this whole thing up for an appeal. This is Doug in Exile. I'm Doug, and you're my happy patriots that I meet with every day. So thanks for watching. Here's the headline from Newsweek. Donald Trump may win appeal against Letitia James. So we'll get into which one this is. Over his real estate estimates in New York. He was already ordered to pay some money, but now Letitia James are going for about $375 million. Why is that important? Well, E. Jean Carroll got a settlement of $83 million, and Trump's going to appeal that. But he still has to post a bond for that. That means he has to put a piece of something of value, probably real estate, up against that money, like $90 million worth of property that they hold. And then Trump has to pay. It'll probably cost him money to run that appeal. Well, this one is much harder to appeal because it costs so much more money. Not only may Trump win appeal against Letitia James, here's the federal judge postpones trial in Trump's D.C. election interference case. That's Jack Smith and Chutkin. We already went into that. I'm just giving you guys a summary of how he's winning that because it's basically been pulled off the docket. It's been delayed. AP News, federal judge in D.C. postpones Trump's March trial on charges of plotting to overturn the election. There's New York Times, after speedy start, appeals court slows down on Trump immunity decision. So that's all gummed up. Good for Trump. Here's USA Today. New York judge, that's Engeron, delays ruling on damages in Donald Trump's fraud trial. This is The Guardian. Verdict in Trump's New York fraud trial delayed until early to mid-February. That's this month. And then CNN, verdict in Trump New York business fraud could come by mid-February. Now, I think he's terrified to pull the trigger on this one because he knows he's overplaying a weak hand. Here's Letitia James. We have her on video claiming this isn't political.
The president of the United States has complained that I'm engaging in some sort of political witch hunt, that I've got some personal vendetta against him, that I campaigned against him. That is not true.
Literally, it is true. Here's the actual clips of her before that was recorded, of her with a vendetta against Trump, campaigning against Trump.
Illegitimate president who sits in the White House. That president, because he's not my president, he's an illegitimate president.
Yeah, she's an election denier, calling him an illegitimate president. Here's the rest of that Newsweek article. Donald Trump may have strong grounds for an appeal in his New York fraud trial, as there is only very weak evidence that anyone was hurt due to his actions. A law professor said they have to prove there was damages. They don't have any. In September, Judge Arthur Engeron issued a partial summary judgment in the case brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James, ruling that the former president and top executives of the Trump Organization committed fraud. Engeron held that Trump grossly inflated the value of his assets to obtain more favorable terms for lenders and insurers. We already went into this not being fraud. This is common business practice in New York. It's how it's done. Trump and James, Letitia James, clashed frequently during the trial, with both accusing the other of racism and politicizing the trial, which I think it's funny that Trump called her a racist, which is true. She flat out said that he was too white and too old and all that. And then here's Engeron will rule on how much the front runner for the 2024 Republican presidential nominee will pay in damage, as well as on 6 other occasions, including falsifying business records, insurance fraud, and conspiracy claims. James is seeking the return of $370 million in profits from that Trump allegedly made. That is ridiculous. And this is a problem for Trump because it's very hard to commit an appeal if you don't have the money to pay for it. So what is he going to do? Come up with a $370 million bond to put up? He has to put up $370 million worth of property up to before he can appeal that case. And this is all just magic money that Engeron pulled out. I think this thing gets appealed, probably overturned just because Letitia James, we have her on video saying she's only politically going after Trump and ran on it. Professor Greg Germain of Syracuse University of Law told Newsweek that Trump may be able to convince an appeal court that James had not proven he had committed fraud. So they have to prove that he committed fraud. They still didn't do it. Quote, the traditional job of an attorney general is to protect innocent citizens who cannot protect themselves, such as consumers and investors. In this case, the attorney general is supporting to protect the large financial institution who can protect themselves. So see, normally you're protecting the people. She's coming out and protecting the giant banks and real estate against Trump, a citizen. Who can protect themselves and did not request the attorney general's protection. Like, hey, Letitia, we didn't ask for your help. The banks didn't, and the real estate. So while motive is not directly relevant to the issue before them, I don't think the judges will be able to ignore the ramifications of their decision, he said, as this gets appealed up to new judges. This case involves punishing Trump primarily for past harm in using an overstated financial statement. I think he has a strong argument that when the attorney general seeks to punish for past use rather than prevent future use, she would have to show all of the traditional elements of fraud in his past work, and she could not find any and did not. So Engoron's going to have to make up stuff in his, when he announces how much money Trump's going to have to pay. Watch this, watch. Germain said Engoron may try to shape this week's judgment to try to include examples of past fraud. He has to put examples of fraud in there because he still hasn't made his case. And here he's going to try and get Trump to pay $375 million. New York Executive Order 36.12, under which Letitia James took her case, gives her wide powers to investigate alleged business fraud. While the attorney general's motive is not technically a defense, it should weigh heavily on the judge's minds in deciding whether 63.12 gives the attorney general such extraordinary powers to punish false information, even if the information was not intentional, was not relied on, and did not harm anyone, he said. And all I can say to that on the reason why this was applied so widely, here's Letitia James running for office.
Until victory is won, but more importantly, until Trump is defeated.
That does not sound like a neutral pro-law person. She's on a witch hunt against Trump, using the corrupt New York legal system to do it. This needs to be appealed, and a higher court needs to throw this thing out. And Letitia James should be tried herself. Trump should countersue the city of New York for what they're doing here. Talk about defamation. Subscribe. I'm Doug in Exile.